Welcome to the Daily Drop on Pro Ball Daily. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tara. And buckle up, sports fans, because if you thought yesterday was wild, today just threw the entire playbook out the window. We've got upsets, absolute blowouts, and some truly head-scratching trends across the board. Mike, where do we even begin?
Tara, we have to start in the NBA. We're talking about a 52-point beatdown. The Toronto Raptors, fresh off, let's just say a patchy season, decide to unleash pure, unadulterated fury on the Orlando Magic, winning 139-87, a 52-point differential. Is that a statement? Is that a fluke? Is that the Magic just collectively deciding to take a nap?
A nap doesn't even begin to cover it, Mike. 52 points is not just a beatdown, it's a historic dismantling. The Raptors shot lights out, obviously, but for the Magic to allow that kind of offensive explosion, that's deeply concerning. It tells me either Toronto found a gear we haven't seen all year, or Orlando is just crumbling. We've seen teams win big, but this kind of margin, it leaves you wondering if someone missed the bus to the arena.
And speaking of teams finding gears, let's talk about some of the teams climbing the power index. The San Antonio Spurs are still sitting pretty at number 1, OKC at number 2, and the Knicks holding strong at number 3. But look at the Charlotte Hornets, climbing to number 4, and then they go out and beat the Boston Celtics 114-99. That's not just a win, that's a statement against a perennial contender.
Absolutely. The Hornets are suddenly looking like a force. To not only move up to 4th in the power index, but then back it up with a decisive win over Boston, that tells me they're peaking at the right time. That's a team you do not want to see in the playoffs if they can sustain this level of play. And Denver, at number 5, also showed out, dominating the Golden State Warriors 116-93. It's clear the top-tier teams are flexing their muscles.
But it's not just the top teams making noise. We saw some unexpected results elsewhere. The Brooklyn Nets, despite their February slump where they only won 17% of their games, a negative 11.1 percentage point drop from their season baseline, they pulled off a 116-99 win against the Kings. Is that a sign they're turning it around, or just a small blip in an otherwise rough patch?
I'm going to lean towards blip, Mike. One win doesn't erase a 17% win rate in an entire month. That February trend for the Nets is absolutely brutal. It suggests deeper issues, maybe chemistry, maybe fatigue. They'll need a string of wins against tougher opponents to convince me they're out of the woods. Now, on the flip side, the Atlanta Hawks have been an absolute roller coaster. They were at 55% in February, a massive negative 17.5 below their baseline, and then flipped the switch to 86% in March, which is plus 13.7. What changed in Atlanta in 30 days?
That's the million-dollar question, Tara. It's an insane swing from one of the coldest teams in the league to one of the hottest. It has to be coaching adjustments, maybe a player returning from injury, or just a collective enough is enough moment in the locker room. If they can maintain that March momentum, they're going to be a scary team in the East playoffs. The playoffs are all about who's hot coming in, and the Hawks are scorching.
Totally. And the Clippers taking down the Bucks 127-113, that's a serious W for LA against a strong Eastern Conference team. It makes you wonder if these playoff contenders are just starting to strategically ramp up.
Switching gears slightly, let's talk about the ice. The NHL Power Index has the New York Islanders still clinging to number 1, with Carolina right behind them. But Montreal, at number 3, just pulled off an upset, beating the number 2 Carolinas 3-1.
That's a fantastic win for the Canadiens, Mike. Anytime you beat a top 2 team in their own building, it's a huge boost of confidence. And speaking of upsets, the Philadelphia Flyers, who aren't even in the top 5 power index, managed to edge out the Dallas Stars 2-1. These are the kinds of games that make you love hockey. Every night is a battle.
And then there's the Boston Bruins, Tara. Remember how we were gushing about their January performance? They had a staggering 91% win rate, plus 24.2 over their season baseline, over 11 games. Dominant! But then you look at March, and they've cratered to 54%, which is negative 10.4 from their season baseline. What happened to that January magic?
That's a dramatic fall from grace. January Bruins looked like Stanley Cup contenders, unbeatable. March Bruins, they look like a team struggling for consistency. It could be injuries, fatigue, maybe teams figured out their strategies. This kind of trend swing is why we love watching, right? Is January an outlier or is March? I'm leaning towards March being the true indicator of where they are if they can't turn it around quickly. The silver lining, though, the Buffalo Sabres went from obscurity to 83% in March, plus 11.9. So someone else in the Northeast is finding their stride.
Good for the Sabres. Let's hit the pitch quickly. In La Liga, Barcelona remains king, a commanding number 1 with 78.6 points, a good 10 points ahead of Real Madrid. No games today, but that dominance in the power index is undeniable. Same in the EPL. Arsenal is absolutely running away with it at 90.8 points. Everton is a distant second. When you have no games, that kind of power index gap speaks volumes.
It really does, Mike. Those European giants are just a different breed. Speaking of dominance, or lack thereof today, let's shift to MLB. The Atlanta Braves are number 1 in our power index, but they just got upset 4-1 by the Kansas City Royals. And the Boston Red Sox, who dipped slightly to number 4 in the power index, lost 3-2 to the Cincinnati Reds. What's with the top teams struggling out of the gate in baseball?
It's baseball, Tara. Anything can happen on any given day. But for 2 of the top 4 teams to get upset on the same day, that's a wake-up call, especially for the Red Sox, who also saw a negative 0.1 dip in their power index and have been struggling to a 30% win rate in March, a full negative 10% below their baseline. They need to right the ship, and fast, or they'll be out of the playoff picture before summer even starts.
I'm not surprised by the Red Sox trend, honestly. That power index dip combined with a 30% win rate in March paints a clear picture. They're not playing winning baseball right now. On the other hand, the Oakland A's, the perennial underdogs, are at 63% in March, plus 7.5 against their baseline. Is it too early to call them a feel-good story?
Never too early for a feel-good story, Tara, especially with the A's. And let's give a shout-out to Joey Wiemer, who dominated with a 74.25 MLB rating in a 6-3 win. That's a monstrous individual performance, and exactly the kind of highlight we love to see in baseball. A's looking up, Wiemer having a day. Maybe there's hope for some of these underdogs.
You love an underdog story, Mike. But let's finish with some college basketball, because it delivered some absolute thrillers and some absolute shockers. The NCAA Power Index has Arizona still at number 1, but the number 5 UConn Huskies just squeezed out a monumental 73-72 win over the number 4 Duke Blue Devils.
Talk about a classic. 1-point game, number 5 versus number 4. That's March Madness preview material right there, Tara. UConn showing they absolutely belong in that top tier. And then you have the Michigan Wolverines, sitting at number 3 in the power index, absolutely obliterating the Tennessee Volunteers, 95-62. A 33-point victory for Michigan. That's a statement, and our stat of the day reinforces it. 95 points in a dominant performance.
That Michigan win wasn't just a win, it was a complete demolition. They look like a machine, and that win over a tough Tennessee team shows they're ready for deep tournament run. Their games, and Duke's for that matter, also go under their average total 40% of the time, which is an interesting trend for bettors. But the biggest story from the trends might be St. John's. They're 100% in March, plus 11.1 against their season baseline.
A perfect March for St. John's. That's the kind of hot streak that can completely change a team's trajectory heading into the postseason. They're playing with confidence, swagger, and everything is clicking. If you were looking for a dark horse in the bracket, you just found one.
Quickly, a few more scores. In the NBA, the Pacers had a high-scoring 135-118 win over the Heat. In NHL, the Rangers beat the Panthers 3-1, and the Bruins had a closer 4-3 win over the Blue Jackets. In MLB, the Orioles beat the Twins 6-6, the Nationals beat the Cubs 6-3, and the Astros topped the Angels 9-7. Good day for some home teams.
All right, Tara, if you had to pick one single biggest takeaway from today's packed sports action, what would it be?
Mike, it has to be the sheer unpredictability of teams hitting their stride or completely falling apart in a month. We saw the Hawks make a massive turnaround, the Bruins collapse, and St. John's go perfect. Consistency is key, but momentum is everything this time of year.
I completely agree. And looking ahead, keep your eye on those NBA Hornets. If they can continue to climb and beat top teams like Boston, they could be a real threat in the Eastern Conference playoffs. That's your Daily Drop for today. For scores, rankings, and everything in between, head to ProBallDaily.com. We'll see you tomorrow.